Hi, this is Sören, co-founder Terramate. Today I want to introduce our newest feature, Environment Management in Terramate, which allows you to manage multiple environments and promote changes in between. Remember the times when in native Terraform or Terragrant or whatever approach you're using, you would have to manage multiple different configuration files, copy, and paste changes in between different environments, which becomes really cumbersome, especially if you operate at a scale. Well, with Terramate, that's in the past now. I want to show you how this works. For that, we're using the Terramate Catalyst Examples reference architecture that you can find on our GitHub organization at terramate.io. I also have this open in my cursor instance, and you can see that I have Terramate CLI installed in the latest 0.17 beta. You can see in my IDE that I have a bunch of environments configured here in my terramate.tm.hcl. So dev, staging, prod, and shared. Let's look at how the experience looks like for a user. Remember this scaffold command that allows us to create new infrastructure from a collection of bundles, so pre-configured best practices and golden path. Well, let's look at how this looks like now if I create a new S3 bucket. I'm gonna choose to create this bucket in the development environment. Now I can give this a name. I call this Catalyst Example Bucket, and I want the bucket to have public read permissions. Let's create a bundle. You can see that now our YAML that has been generated next to our input variables here, our configuration, it has this new environments block. And this block basically specifies the environments that I want to generate and deploy to. And I can override specific variables in those environments. So let's run generate. You can see we have the bucket created in stacks, dev, S3 buckets, catalyst, example, bucket, dev. Okay, how about if I want to deploy staging? I add staging to my environments. Now I run generate again, and you can see the Terramate automatically from the same configuration file creates this new bucket. Okay, let's look at how the bucket component looks like. We have this here, staging, Terramate example bucket, and here's the Terraform code. Okay, so let's go back to the config. I actually want to override the visibility for staging and set it to private. For that, I create inputs, visibility, and actually I want to set this to private. So I'm overwriting the visibility that is set in the default inputs for a specific environment. If I now run generate again, you will see that Terramate automatically updates this bucket's configuration, and now the ACL is in private. Okay. If I, for example, add another environment, say, okay, we have dev staging, let's add prod. I run generate again. We see the prod bucket being created here. Let's take a look here at prod, Terramate example bucket. You can see it uses the default visibility that is configured in my configuration. Again, I can override this as I want. So what does it mean? First of all, instead of having multiple YAML configurations, remember this could also be HCL, so the configuration format depends on what you prefer. We can now manage multiple environments in a single YAML configuration. We can also very easily promote changes. Yeah, so we can, for example, say, instead of just rolling out dev, also roll out staging. But in staging, we want variables to be changed. We can also pass, you can see that the Terraform module version that is used in the S3 component is configured here. So for example, if I want to use a different version of the Terraform module in staging, I just do this. I add Terraform modules here, and I set this to version 6.0, and I run generate, and you will see that the components updates. And now, I actually see that I go to the correct component here, and now we use version 6. So this is how I can also manage different Terraform module versions among different environments. Next, we will add native commands for bundle reconfigure and bundle promote, so that when you already have an existing environment, you can easily promote it with the TOI. It's very similar to the scaffold TOI, which then means you don't have to edit the YAML file anymore at all. So that's kind of interesting for non-expert users if they rather like to rely on a TOI flow. Thank you so much, and I'm curious to hear your feedback on this feature. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Discord or to me directly, and have a good day.